Class, your attention, please.
Wrestlemania!
Guys, holy moly! Attention, class. What is happening here?
We're in Bizarro World. We're in Bizarro World.
Attention, class! Holy moly! I know that there's 68,237 of you chanting Hogan right now, but quiet down because class has to be in session. Attention, everybody! Wow, what a maneuver!
Wow.
Welcome, everybody, to the loudest edition of Classic Match Classroom that we have ever done. I am your professor, Hollywood Tyler Wolf, joined by the Prodigy, Anthony the Rock Cerulli, also a very famous man now. Congratulations on being on, what is it, the ITV? What is it? I'm old. I don't know these things.
The well, I was featured on Independent Wrestling TV, IWTV, for the Invictus Pro Wrestling. Shout out to them. They just had their event yesterday, the 8 City Open. So I'll be working with them going forward as the independent epicenter. So that's a new project that we got going on. Really excited about it, and I'm looking forward to working with them.
Yeah, man, you kicked some ass with that. I'm really proud of you, and I can't wait to see what you guys do in the future. But this show is not about the future. It is about the past. And we're going all the way back to the year 2002 this week, an event that is near and dear to my heart. As I was in attendance live, here is the official shirt that I got at WrestleMania 18. And we are talking about The Rock versus Hollywood Hogan. This is an interesting one, man.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you always kind of ask me what I knew about this match going into it or about the build or whatever. And the only thing I can really come up with was the fact that, you know, the whole point of the classroom is to watch matches that I had never seen before. But the fact is, I cannot believe that we are talking about this match because I can't believe that I've never seen Rock versus Hogan. Like, it's just one of those matches that it's kind of like, you know, you have to see it. Like, I know we've said, you know, Austin Bret and Hogan and Savage, like, you have to see these matches, but like, it's arguably the two biggest stars in not just wrestling, but who've transcended wrestling in pop culture in general. So the fact that I've never seen this, it's kind of interesting. You know, I obviously, you know, you see all the spots and you know about what happens in this match, but I had never seen these two really square off. And you know, this is going to be a really intriguing episode, and I might get a little, you know, we might get a little controversial on this episode, but you're just going to have to stay tuned and tune in to see what we say.
You know, and we'll talk about this in detail, but a lot of people call this one of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history. I think that there's a way that you can look at it like that, but it's not for, per se, the in-ring technician of it. This is a spectacle of a match. This is a legendary match. I will give my live take on it as we go through the episode. I will tell you what I was probably about your age, actually. WrestleMania 20, what is this, WrestleMania 18? Yeah, I was in high school. I was younger than you. I was in high school when this happened.
Wow.
And I'll tell you all my personal stories along the way, but we got a lot of stuff to do here. And what do you think, Ben? You want to dive into this?
What you gonna do when the classroom is in session on you, brother?
Well, I think you may have mixed up your Hulk Hogan's here because we definitely don't get that Hulk Hogan on this build. But what we do get is a lethal dose of poison.
I'm going to kill what I created. I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna kill my creation. I'm going to inject the WWF with a lethal dose of poison. If anybody's gonna kill my creation, I'm gonna do it. Me and
Now, I had sent you a text message saying that this might be the greatest start to any of our episodes that we've ever done. My God, what a way to start things off. Vince McMahon deserves an Emmy for this performance. Like, seriously. So basically, the backstory here is that Vince McMahon has lost his match with Ric Flair at the Royal Rumble. They're both co-owners of the company at this time. And Vince is spiraling. He's losing his company to Flair. And he decides that he can't not be in control of his company. So he has to kill his company. And how is he going to kill his company? Well, you bring in the guys that killed WCW. You bring in the poison, right? You bring in the cancer. And just watching Vince, for me, the different emotions that he went through, it was like a grieving person, you know what I mean? Like the stages of grief. Like at first he was like, I have to do this. This is real. And then he was like crying, and then he was angry, and then he was like, I just loved it. I just thought this was so awesome. What do you think of this?
You know, that's a perfect way to put it, kind of like the stages of grief, because Vince definitely goes through all of them. I wrote in my notes, I think this is both very great, but very ridiculous at the same time, seeing, you know, him going through all these emotions, because I love the crazy emotion. He goes over the top, portrays all of his, you know, crying and, you know, anger and everything so great. But at the same time, you get little moments like oh, it's gonna feel so good, you know, like I'm like, come on. But it's very on brand for Vince. I think this is definitely, like you said, very Emmy-esque. Just the line, hearing him say, I'm going to kill what I created, such a, you know, it fits so perfectly into what Vince is, you know, that he's willing to, you know, he's built up the WWF for all these years, and he's willing to kill what he created. And of course, you know, we get the reveal. He turns around in his chair and we see the NWO logo. And what was most, you know, what caught my eye the most really was the crowd reaction, because you would think that it would be like such this big pop or whatever, but it was almost like a mix of confusion, you know, and it was a delayed reaction as well. Like, you know, you see the logo and there's like a bit of silence, and then you start to get that reaction. So I think it was,
that's actually because it's on SmackDown and it was pre-recorded. SmackDown wasn't live at the time, so SmackDown always was known for the phoniest reactions like that. It drove me nuts. I hated it.
So do you think the reaction was a lot louder and they like doled it down? Like, why would they do that? I don't understand.
I don't even know if maybe they played this for the live audience. I don't know if they did or not. Maybe try to keep spoilers like away from it. Spoilers were starting to become a thing here. I don't know for sure. I remember high school Tyler Wolf really not enjoying this at all and thinking it was very stupid. But
really?
But grown-up Tyler is a very big fan of it.
So what was like the rumor mill around this time? Was anything said about the NWO, or was this completely out of left field?
For me, like I guess I was starting to get on the dirt sheets a little bit around this time. So I think it was pretty well known that Hogan, Hall, and Nash were coming back. At least like for the real hardcore, like people that would be like our fan level now, they would all know that Hogan, Hall, and Nash were coming back. Okay,
cool. I mean, regardless, this was an amazing start to the promo. Vince was on point here, and it sets the pace really well.
Yeah. I as much as I said the first part was really good, this part was absolutely amazing. And I remember when this happened live as well. We're talking about Ric Flair trying to reason with Vince McMahon. One thing I really love about Flair is like when at the very beginning, like when he's like, oh, you know, we've had some great times here, Richmond. It's like you could almost see him like reliving those moments in his face. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's so in tune with that emotion, which I just thought it came across really, really well. And then, my God, this video package, Kid Rock's Lonely Road of Faith. I think this is one of the greatest pieces of production history that the WWF has ever put out. WWE, whatever. And especially, you got to remember, like this time period, this was 2002, right? This shit never got done to this extent back then. So, you know, we got like the Creed Desire videos came out after this. The Triple H U2 videos came out after this. Like this was the one that that set the bar, and my God, was it amazing.
No, this was an amazing video. You know, especially being in 2022, you wish that they would do something like this nowadays. That with all the history that we've seen, you know, you wish that you would see something like this. But the fact that we got to see it in 2002 with all of the history, you know, albeit not a lot looking in hindsight, now that we're what 20 years later, you know, it was just an amazing promo. So Flair's trying to reason with him, and he shows the video with, you know, about the WWF's history. Is that part of him reasoning with Vince? Like,
yeah, he's trying to be like, Vince, look at what you've done. Look how the legacy of this. Like, why are you trying to destroy the end of and destroy this by bringing these guys in? I've dealt with these guys before. Like, you don't know what you're doing here. I just thought like the tone, like, you know, this song is called "Lonely Road of Faith" by Kid Rock. It starts out very slow and the reliving the glory years, which you see in a lot of the stuff now on the Classroom too. I don't know if you were like, oh shit, yeah, like, you know, you see the Snuka jump, and then like as the song picks up and gets like, you know, goes into the new generation, and then it gets like real hardcore and it goes into the Attitude Era.
Yeah,
like,
I thought the pacing of that was very well. The editing was great.
And then they, you know, there's like the slow part where it's kind of like, as I walk through the valleys of the shadow of death or whatever. Like, and then it goes like the NWO, like, and Bret Hart going to the screw job. And then it's just so good. And then the best part about it though is like the part where it's like after all that, where they're all spinning around and it's like everybody transitions from Michaels to Angle to whoever, Savage.
That
like,
was, yeah.
I thought that was so good. If you've never seen this, look up the WWF Kid Rock Lonely Road of Faith video. I cannot recommend it enough.
And, you know, it does a great job in kind of presenting the NWO as such a big threat. You know, in the context of WCW and the Monday Night Wars, like obviously the NWO coming to WWF is a big thing in itself. But the fact that we're hyping up the history of the WWF and, you know, putting such an emphasis on this is what Vince created and Vince is going to kill it with this one group, that alone makes the NWO a huge deal going forward.
Yep. But did the video work? Well, this is the same segment. No, the video did not work. And Vince comes out and we get to find out who's coming to the WWF and the NWO.
Rick, you can't stop it. They can't stop it. No one can stop the fact that these men are on their way to the World Wrestling Federation. The NWO. These men, Hogan, Hall, and Nash.
Oh, for the love of God.
And if you or anybody else gets in their way, I guarantee you there will be no way out.
Big pop for the boys coming back. And this was pretty exciting. You know, Hogan had been gone from the company since about 93, Hall and Nash since 96. The NWO had never been to the WWE. So a lot of fun potential matches that could be happening here. And, you know, are they going to come in and just run wild like they did in WCW?
You know, this segment was great, hearing the pop and everything. I can't help but think, you know, they put them on the big screen and they're doing this little video. I can only imagine, like, in story, how Vince got that little video of them just standing there and doing their poses.
Yeah, I think the video could have.
Yeah.
You know, I think
all right, guys, I need you to just stay in this camera and just taunt, because I'm going to put you on the big screen. God damn it.
Like, it's so funny. But yeah, got the point across really well. And I was excited to see that I mean, was there any reason why they did this outside of just showing like the NWO, or was there like speculation of other members coming in that they wanted to clarify that it was just these three, or is it just, you know?
Yeah, I think they wanted to drive the pay-per-view because they were going to debut at the No Way Out pay-per-view, which was also NWO, right?
Oh,
and they highlighted that. They did the spray paint on the N, the W, and the O for the poster as well for that, which was a nice one. But you gotta, you know, these guys are coming at No Way Out. That's basically, they hyped it up. And on the Sunday Night Heat, which was a thing back in the day that aired directly before No Way Out, the NWO were shown walking out of their locker room as they went off the air, saying they're kicking off the pay-per-view. try to get those last minute pay-per-view buys, right?
Cool.
And this is where we kind of take a turn, I guess. I don't know. The NWO is in the WWE, and I didn't really like this segment at all. I love the lighting effects that they did for their entrance. It's one thing that WWF and WWE is very, very good at, is taking something that works and making it better. True. In some regards. In WCW, they just walk out to their music and whatever, but now they've got the cool, like the black and white, the the fade, like almost like the Bray Wyatt looking, like paint gloopy thing fade out. Like I thought it was good, but for me, the promo was a miss, a huge miss. I think that Nash dragged. I thought he sounded stupid just saying how his feelings were hurt, that they want a clean slate. I loved hearing the huge pop for Scott Hall's "Hey Yo," because that was never a WWF thing, so that was cool. Hall just says they don't want any trouble, and deep down they're just fans too. And then Hogan, like, it sounded like he just woke up from a nap. Like he was just, he had just no energy in his voice at all. Like, and I know I'm a little stuffed up today. I'm a bit under the weather, so I might be a little bit like that too. But my God, Hogan, like, he just says that, they want a chance and they want to thank Vince McMahon for giving him a chance, and then they left. Like, these guys didn't come across as being cool or badasses or like anything like WCW. Like, what a terrible first impression for people to see these guys.
Absolutely. And I actually want to play this promo just so the fans get an idea of this, but I got some comments afterwards, but let's hear it first.
I mean, all we want is a fair chance, a clean slate. We want the ability to come out and prove to you great fans
we're applauding the fans.
Not only can we do it, but nobody does it quite like us.
We just want the opportunity to work with some of the great WWF superstars. But the point is, we don't want any trouble. Because deep down, we're just like all of you.
Sure they are.
But I can tell you one thing right now. In all sincerity, there's one man who gave the NWO a chance, and that was Vince McMahon. And right now, I'd like to thank Vince McMahon for the opportunity. And I want to tell you, Vince McMahon, we will not let you down. God bless Vince McMahon. Thank you.
Oh, did it wake me up? Is that over?
So here's what I'll say. Well, first of all, I actually wanted to bring up a point about the which members are coming video before. I like the idea that it's kind of like, I kind of compared it to, like peeking at your Christmas gifts before you get to open them on Christmas Day. And, this is kind of Christmas Day, if you will, for, the WWE fans. But this is a Christmas Day where you open your gifts and you realize that you need batteries for the gift before you play with it.
I like that.
The entrance was killer, right? Like you said, the production value just goes all the way. It's awesome. For me, I kind of like the angle that they're going here because it shows like, the NWO comes in. All right, there's a little bit more of a story than it's just, oh, we're going to wreck shit here in the WWE. Like, there's more of a story. It's kind of like, well, we want to prove to you guys that we're good to go. Like, we're fine. But at the same time, it's like, that's never been the NWO's angle. Like, of course, I've never seen that, a lot of the NWO stuff, but from what I've seen, it's always been, we're here to take over. So yeah, what's kind of the kind of idea of them coming in and wanting to be like complacent almost? I guess maybe that's like an entryway for, I mean, I can't tell you. And Vince alone, his whole thing was that he's injecting a lethal dose of poison So for NWO to come in and be like, no, we're not going to be that lethal dose of poison. We just want to be, fans, and we're going to wrestle with all the great superstars and eventually, go and target Austin and Rock like we'll see later on in this feud. I don't know. I'm just really not understanding it. But going a little bit more into this promo, for what they had as far as the story, I think Nash on the mic was really good for what the story was. Like, he was really like, that really hurts our feelings. Like,
yeah, but like, does that kill them though? Like, I don't give a, like, you're 7 feet tall. If your feelings get hurt, punch somebody in the face, like,
and what, I will say the commentary, not just in the segment, but the entire feud, JR and Jim Ross, JR and Jerry Lawler, excuse me. I love the line JR says, "Oh, your feelings are hurt. Give me a break." Yeah.
JR had a couple of really good lines throughout.
He did. And another great line that I wanted to point out was from Hogan. I usually don't laugh out loud for some of these lines, but when Hogan says, God bless Vince McMahon, thank you very much, I broke laughing. I was like, that's hilarious. That is hysterical. But yeah, I like the promo. I thought it was a good kind of swerve, if you will, a new outlook on the NWO, but in the same light, I don't think it made sense. I think you could have maybe held off on doing this, but
no. Some of the things they were saying though weren't too far off from the truth, because there was a lot of heat on these guys coming back, and from a backstage standpoint, a lot of people didn't want to see the NWO back. It was a big internal discussion to bring these guys back, and the locker room didn't receive them. They were very skeptical of them for a while as well. Right. So a little bit of truth in the promo there as well.
Yeah, true.
But then we get something that made up for it. I'm just gonna say The Rock had a home run here, and let's just let the man do what he does.
What'd you just say? Oh, no. Doesn't matter what you just said. See, you shouldn't have said that. Rock was being a man, no problem. Picture for your son, no problem. Rock will tell you what you could do with that camera. You, Chico, Razor Ramon. You take that camera and shine it up real nice. And then what you do, you give it to your big buddy. Big Daddy Cool, Diesel. You turn it sideways. And then you give it to him. Give it to Hogan. Hogan, you take that camera. It's already shined up. Turn sideways. Eat your vitamin, say your prayers, and stick it straight up all your candy asses.
Every time I can't hold it together. Oh my god. Like The Rock, like I was never a big Rock fan. I was a DX guy growing up, believe it or not, despite what I have to say about them on this show. And so I was never a Rock guy, because they were like DX of the Nation, right? That was the big feud, Triple H and The Rock. I was always a Triple H guy.
Right.
But like now going back and watching it, like wrong side of the team, man. The Rock is so good, like so good. But every time he makes those weird noises, and he still does it like to this day, like when he comes back and he's like mocking people, he's like, like I just whenever he makes those weird whiny noises, I just can't control myself. Instant loud pop for me.
Yes, The Rock is phenomenal in this segment. The whole Chico, Razor Ramon, doing that.
Yeah.
That was all great. And, I love the little details in different segments, and I always kind of point them out. But the close-up on Hogan at the end just tells such a great story, and it showcases what the kind of angle that we're going with this feud is going to be. Hogan obviously looks like he's challenged here. This guy Rock, he thinks he's the top guy or whatever, and here's Hogan. You see that in his eye that he's like, I'm gonna have to put an end to this.
I'm the
one.
big guy here. Yeah,
exactly.
Very true.
So I love that camera shot. But yeah, this segment was great.
The main event of this show was Steve Austin challenging Chris Jericho for the undisputed world title. The NWO would interfere, costing Austin the match, spray painting him, laying him out. So they did inject their poison by laying out Austin, I guess. I don't know, but so that's kind of where the NWO left things. And then this is something that I think we're going to talk a lot about this segment here. I've got a lot of notes on it.
Same.
We've got who is the bigger icon. Hogan comes out. First of all, the fact that this was in Chicago, I think really escalated this segment to the next level. And I think that this feud gets saved a lot by locations. You know, the match happening in Toronto with the fans there. And this happening in Chicago made this into a better segment than I think it would have been. Hogan is so good at milking a crowd and making a reaction bigger than what it needs to get. And then I'm just going to kind of start talking and ramble or jump in and cut me off or play some clips when you got him along the way here. Hogan's going down memory lane. He's got going down memory lane with all the fans, right? Oh, I did this. I slammed the 700-pound Andre the Giant at WrestleMania, and JR
oh my god,
I'm 700 pounds. Like no time for Hogan's bullshit. Hogan was the best comeback to the what chance. I love that when the crowd was whatting him, and he's like, they're like, what? He's like, you're gonna do. Like I just thought, I thought that was really, really good. Everything that I said about Flair's promo earlier, though, about like believing it and like reliving and being in the moment, total exact opposite for Hogan. It just felt like he was reading off a piece of paper, as I'm doing right now, getting lost in my many notes here. And it just sort of felt like there was no genuineness to it, right?
Yeah, totally.
You know, starts ripping on the fans. You guys turned on me. You're all the reason that he's here, that he's the biggest icon in the business.
He even drops a "you people," which I love. I love a good "you people."
Yeah, the good old "you people," classic heel 1980s coming out, you know. Nobody's sold out more arenas than him. He's the biggest star, past or present. There'll never be a bigger star than Hulk Hogan. Then we cue The Rock. So what do you think about Hogan's little thing here?
Really good. I like the you could tell, like you said, compared to Ric Flair, definitely wasn't as genuine. But I will say that Hogan really does a great job in milking the crowd. Like I said, that "you people" line was great. And what I really like is that towards the end of him talking, when he starts going into "there'll never be a bigger legend than me," you can hear the crowd already starting to chant for The Rock. So I think that's a really nice little tidbit there. And I love the timing of just the end segment of Hogan, talking that there's no bigger star. Jerry Lawler says, "Can you doubt that, JR?" Music hits.
Yeah.
And JR's like, "I think I can," something like that. So great stuff all around for this opening part.
And The Rock just comes out right on fire right away. I even bought, I never get tricked by this, and this one tricked me when he was like, "You really think that the people drove you away?" And it doesn't matter what you think. Like, just smokes them with it. The Rock was so passionate here. The people believed you. They loved you. I loved you. He says you talk about headlining all these arenas and WrestleManias, which I think Hogan might have forgot to mention in his promo. I don't think right? And then he's just, the classic challenge. How do you feel about headlining one more WrestleMania with The Rock? I just thought it was an iconic moment now that is really strong.
Yeah, and we have a clip of that I actually want to play because it's just so impactful.
Yeah.
You know what? The Rock will say this about you, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. You are, without a shadow of a doubt, a legend. You are, without a shadow of a doubt, an icon, quite possibly the best ever. And seeing as you are back in the WWF because of Vince McMahon, The Rock has one thing to say. You talked about headlining, main eventing, WrestleMania after WrestleMania after WrestleMania. Well, Hulk Hogan, The Rock says, how do you feel about headlining one more WrestleMania with The Rock?
Oh, my God! The Rock has challenged Hogan! He's challenged Hogan for WrestleMania! Oh, my gosh!
Yes.
Oh, my God! There it is! There it is! Oh! That's the answer we were looking for! WrestleMania! Hogan, The Rock, one-on-one!
I love JR here as well. JR really made this feel like a bigger deal than it really was.
Oh my God! Oh my God! I don't see it.
He was on fire here. JR, and I love, we all do the fun JR like you just did there, but it adds so much to it really is the next level. And Jerry Lawler in 2002 was really good as well.
They're phenomenal on the booth here. Like the entire feud, they really bring it up a notch with just their commentary alone.
What did you think about the stare down and the way that they work the crowd here?
It's phenomenal. Like the fact that you can have these two guys who are, biggest name in the golden era, biggest name arguably in the Attitude Era. Both guys so instrumental in the Monday Night Wars. The fact that you bring them back into a ring together just to stare down, and the fans going crazy. Of course, Chicago is a great location for wrestling. It's phenomenal. And then of course you add in all the extra stuff like JR going crazy and everything. Such a good segment, such a good stare down, and it kind of foreshadows what we're going to be seeing in the remainder of this feud.
It was really cool, like the one moment when they were doing their crowd, look over here, and there would be like a Hogan chant, and then there would be like the Hogan chant would stop, and then they would switch, and then the Rock chant would start. But then like in mid chant, like the Hogan chant would start. Like, you know what I mean? It was it was really, really cool. Like we said earlier, Chicago, definitely the right place to be for it. And what a great segment. And that's it. The Rock makes his way up to the back, and if only the segment would have ended here.
Yep.
We've got The Rock, doing his pose, and Hall and Nash run out. They smoke The Rock from behind. They bring him back to the ring. Hogan lays him out with the belt, whips him. You get Hall hitting him with a beautiful outsider's edge. Got Nash hitting him with a jackhammer. And The Rock is laid out. If only the segment would have ended here. Hogan decides to go out, grab the toolbox, empty it out, and picks up a fucking hammer. And they hit The Rock in the back of the head with a hammer. And then Hogan drops a leg. Hall counts a 3 count. They spray paint NWO on his back. The Rock gets stretchered out. If only the segment ended here. The Rock is getting loaded into an ambulance, and the ambulance is getting pulled away when all of a sudden a semi-Mack truck cuts off the ambulance, and Hall and Nash back a car up behind the ambulance so it can't move, and they come out and start beating up the ambulance. And Hogan decides to back up this Mack truck and run it into the ambulance, and The Rock is dead, and WrestleMania is canceled. That's it. Like, I love
how you say that's it, as if we didn't see 15 segments all put into one.
Like, first of all, they crammed about 4 weeks worth of angles that they could have done here.
Yes.
In one segment. Yep. Second of all, how much overkill do you have to do here? Mm-hmm. Why couldn't you have maybe leave the challenge as it was? We didn't mention The Rock laid out Hogan with a rock bottom. I love that little segment. Good luck, brother. You're going to need it. Not as much as you, brother. Fucking rock bottom. Have The Rock get the first blowing on Hogan here or whatever, right? And then maybe like the NWO. I would have even been fine of having the NWO come out and lay The Rock out and spray paint him.
Sure.
I don't need a hammer. I definitely don't need a fucking mat truck.
It's like they added NWO's greatest hits into one segment.
I sure hope that they still have Dr. Bob on retainer, man.
Oh boy.
He's got his fucking work cut out for him to get The Rock to WrestleMania here. If
Dr. Bob only works neck injuries or
he's only a throat specialist. Okay,
yes, he is.
Because he had about 3 months or 4 months with Steamboat to get him ready. He's got about 3 weeks for The Rock here.
Rocky's got to start practicing his
Oh my god, I hated everything about this. I
want to break this down into 2 different outlooks that I had on this segment. One, I want to kind of focus on the promo a little bit because there were a few notes that I forgot to mention. Like I said, commentary sells this great, and the line of just hearing who will go down as the best ever. We talk about WrestleMania even nowadays, and the main event, of course, next week already. I can't believe WrestleMania is next week already. That they're hyping it up as the biggest WrestleMania match of all time between Roman and Brock. The fact that they can't acknowledge the fact that they have had so many big matches in WrestleMania history, to the point where this match specifically, the tagline was, "Who will go down as the best ever?" You mean to tell me that a unification match is going to be bigger than that tagline? It's crazy. I'll never understand that. But what I really enjoyed here, and I talked about it a little bit earlier when we got the No Way Out segment, was this is where you start to see Hogan's kind of internal conflict in this segment. And this is the kind of path that they take in the feud, which I love, and I wish we would have seen it more. That in this kind of segment, it's not Hollywood Hogan. When Rock asked the people, do you want to see this match? You start to see Hulk Hogan here. Because although it's kind of taken in a heel route that it's like, oh, I want to be the best. And, we even get some of that, swagger and machismo of Hogan, like, who do you think you are? Blah, blah, blah. He kind of lets his guard down, and he kind of says to himself, like, this guy is challenging me. I've been in the main event of WrestleMania, 8 times in a row?
Nine times.
9 times in a row. The fact that this guy, that he's this new upcomer, I'm Hulk Hogan. Like, sure, I'm wearing the black and white and everything, but I'm the top star here. I need to protect my legacy, and I need to go against this guy, but he's proving to be a challenge. This internal conflict is what is really selling me on this feud, because at WrestleMania already you're starting to see, you're not going to see Hollywood Hogan. You're going to see Hulk Hogan, and that really plays into the match later on. I think, I kind of said that he let that swagger down, especially letting his guard down with that rock bottom, because even though he's in the zone as Hulk Hogan when he accepts the challenge, he goes back to that same, you're going to need it or whatever. And then Rock says, not as much as you, rock bottom, boom. So that alone was my favorite segment right off the bat from what we've seen so far. That's one angle that I look at it from. Here's the second angle. Like you said, there's way too much shit that's going on. I think it's a fantastic segment. I think it would have been even better if they split it up into 2 or 3 weeks. I don't think you needed to do all of this. It's just so, even you said you would have liked the Hall, you would have been okay with Hall and Nash attacking them. I wouldn't have been. You could have just, at least in this segment, if you want to do it later on in the night, sure, fine.
Yeah.
But to have, this announcement of Rock and Hogan be overshadowed by a semi truck and a hammer and fucking ambulances, like, it's just way too much. And one last note that I want to bring up is Hogan, like, the amount of times that he says, "I'm going to lay the smackdown on his crippled ass." I almost should have kept like a tally of how many times he said it in that one segment. It did not need to happen. I'm fine that it happened, because sure, it's good storytelling, but you could have done it over like 3 weeks and it would have been fine.
Absolutely. A couple things here. I've got a pop quiz for you in a second.
Ooh,
but
okay.
You said something that I want people to really think about here. The first 9 WrestleManias, Hulk Hogan wrestled in the main event in 8 of them, and he was involved in the main event in another one as well.
Right.
If you want to, and I guess I'm counting him and Yokozuna. That was the last match that happened at WrestleMania 9. I know it was controversial. Think about that for a second. 9 years in a row, this guy was in the main event picture of WrestleMania. Like, that is outstanding, right?
Yeah.
That's quite a feat. That's quite a feat. Nowadays, we get people pissed off because Roman Reigns been involved in title matches for 6 years, 4 years. You know what I mean? Like Hogan did it for 9, and Hogan's biggest years were like right at the beginning of WrestleManias. You know what I mean? And like the year before WrestleMania. So you got to tip your cap to Hogan when you're doing an icon versus an icon match. Hogan has to be in it, right?
100%.
Pop quiz though.
All right.
Do you know who Hogan was actually supposed to fight at WrestleMania 18?
I feel like there's an obvious answer. And was it Stone Cold?
That is correct. The WWF, Vince wanted Hogan versus Austin. Austin wanted nothing to do with the match. He wanted nothing to do with Hogan. Because he didn't think Hogan could go in the ring, and he wanted a bigger match at WrestleMania, which
Okay.
I don't know how you could get a bigger match in Hogan at WrestleMania
Yeah.
unless you want to be in the title picture, maybe. But Austin and the company were having really, really hard times right now. They were a lot of animosity. Him and Vince were not getting
Right.
along.
This was his last year, no?
He had
Until
publicly, he had publicly called out the company's creative on their Bite This show.
Oof.
He didn't show up for Raw the night after WrestleMania. He didn't come. And then he came back a few weeks later, and then he finally did the big walkout about 2 months later, maybe a month and a half later, and
Wow.
that was it. Austin was gone for over a year.
Damn. Well, I want to kind of ask you this because, you would kind of figure with the whole story that they had of, the NWO being the top guys in WCW and Austin arguably being the best, the kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the tide shifter for the WWF to win the war. Do you think they should have gone with Hogan and Austin if Austin was okay with it? Or do you think Hogan and Rock was perfectly fine?
I mean, looking back on it in hindsight, Hogan and Rock was amazing.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger match was Austin, for sure. I do.
Sure.
I think it was definitely a bigger match. Now, here's a hypothetical question. Does the crowd react the same way if it's Austin instead of The Rock? Because Austin was beloved too. Like, I think that Toronto crowd was cheering for Hogan no matter who he was in there with.
Yeah.
He could have been in there against the Pope and it wouldn't have mattered. They would have booed him out of the building. But I don't think it would have been as aggressive, maybe. But Hogan was back. He was the new toy again. So I don't know. It would have been interesting to see how that played out.
Yeah, something to think about for sure.
We get a Hulk Hogan video package here, just highlighting his whole career. Very well done. Again, the video packages I thought were very good in this.
We get a young Michael Cole as well, which was fun to see.
Yeah, very young Michael Cole, frosted tips and all. And we just get a little NWO promo here. I just like, what happened to Hulk Hogan? Like, we did Hogan and Savage on the Classic Match Classroom, and it was crazy, man. It was like brother, ooh yeah, and like Hogan just could not sound any less excited to be talking. And I just thought this was another terrible promo by Hogan.
Oh, but don't worry, Rock. I'm not gonna finish you off.
Started that Rocky chant.
I'm not gonna lay the smack down on you. I'm gonna wait to kick your candy ass until WrestleMania. Because that way, Rock, with your fans watching and the millions and millions of Rock fans watching, there will be nothing you can do. Because at WrestleMania, what you gonna do, brother, when Hulkamania runs wild on you?
Boring. Like, okay, here's my theory on this, all right?
Okay.
Now, because I watch a lot of Hollywood Hogan promos, I know Hollywood Hogan is different, but Hollywood Hogan is cocky, tries to be cool. There's more excitement in his voice usually.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in WCW, they didn't have scripted promos. Now, I've seen too many of Hulk Hogan's movies where he's reading scripts and he's a terrible actor. So maybe he's just can't act like if he's reading off and he can't show emotion because he just can't. Like, I don't get it. This is terrible.
Hogan had more energy and charisma in Muppets in Space than he did in this promo alone.
100%. And Gremlins, like,
I really don't know what to say. Because I know that Hulk Hogan and Hollywood Hogan are definitely two completely different characters. What I'm kind of focusing in on is still that kind of internal struggle for Hogan, which is still keeping me very invested because I think that's a great story to go with going forward. But you could do it a little more excitingly. I get that you want to try to be a little more menacing and definitely want to kind of stray away from that red and yellow Hogan, but like, I'm kind of sleeping here. You know what I mean? I think the story is great so far and I'm really invested, but you could be doing so much more.
I could not tell you how uninvested I was in the build for WrestleMania. And I remember because I was so excited, right? I got my ticket. I did not like The Rock. I had no interest to see Hogan and Rock. I was so upset that we were getting it. Every week they would announce new matches for this card, and I would be furious. Like we got Kurt Angle and Kane. I was like, what the fuck? Kurt Angle and Mr. Perfect. They had a thing at the Royal Rumble. God damn it. Like I just remember being furious. Like Triple H and Chris Jericho were having a terrible build to their WrestleMania match. And Tyler Wolf in high school was not excited about this WrestleMania.
It's kind of similar to what we're seeing now with this WrestleMania. Everyone's saying that the build is awful, and I could agree, but I mean, I'm going to be there for this year's WrestleMania, so maybe 20 years later we'll have a similar parallel.
You know what? I got the return of Hulk Hogan, and you're getting the return of Steve Austin, so we're both going to get a moment at least, right?
Very true, very true.
Next up, Monotone Hogan talks to a cardboard cutout of The Rock. This sucked.
I mean, I find you worthy of facing me. I wouldn't waste my time doing that to a nobody. Rock, you are not a nobody. You're one of the brightest stars in the business today. But again, let me say it one time real clear. You are not in my league. Not even close. At WrestleMania, Rock, when it comes time to icons, you're gonna find out what the difference is between a wannabe and the real thing, brother.
Even his brother sounded forced.
Brother.
I don't know. You said you liked this better than I did. I wasn't a fan.
I did. I kind of like this. It kind of shows Hogan well as hyping himself up as a villain, but also showcasing himself as a legend. I think the story has been working well. With The Rock cardboard cutout. When he's with him alone, I think that's also something to look out for too in this feud. Is that whenever we've seen just Hogan and Rock alone, in the ring, in the locker room, Hogan is very more serious and more focused to the point where we're seeing more of, just straight up Hulk Hogan ready to go, ready for Mania. But when he's with the NWO, he's kind of fucking around, doing his little, shindig, whatever stuff, just shitting around. So I guess that's another way to kind of look at it, is that when it's with Hogan and Rock, he's much more focused, much more determined. But I mean, even then, you could get a little more Hulk Hogan-esque. And I guess they were saving that for later on in the feud. I don't really know what the outlook here was. But regardless, I thought this was, contrary to what you said, I thought this was a pretty good promo. I kind of bought into what Hogan was saying. I think he could have done it a little bit better. But for what we saw, I thought it was okay.
I like everything Hogan is saying, but his
delivery is awful.
It takes me out of it because it's like, to me, I'm watching. It's like, this guy doesn't look like he cares. So why do I care?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Thank God The Rock is back 2 weeks later after, and Rock, very honest here, opens his promo up by saying that he's a human. Are you kidding me? You're like fucking Wolverine, man. There's not one scratch on you 3 weeks after you got ran over by a fucking Mack truck, man.
This is The Rock's version of a human. Instead of 1 week, it's 3 weeks.
Like Steamboat was out for 3 months taking a shot to the throat, and The Rock's fine in 3 weeks, getting run over by a truck. He has to have a whole team of Dr. Bobs. Like they've cloned him. They cloned him, man. He's just so good here, though. Like, I hate recapping Rock promos because I can never do them justice. You know what I mean? He calls out the NWO, says to finish the job. Hogan comes out. Why does he talk like this still? After I woke up from my nap that Hogan put me into, The Rock did have a really great line. I really liked, who would have thought that a man with 24-inch pythons would have half-inch testicles? I thought it was really funny. And then Hall steps up and challenges The Rock, leading to a match later on SmackDown.
Fine promo. I thought it was, like you said, again, with that sleepy Hogan voice. Rock was great. Rock is always great. And then it leads us to a match.
Yeah, and I did lie, by the way. The Rock had a very small bandage on his ribs, so he is showing the effects.
A very small bandage. All right.
Yeah, that truck really did fuck him up. So I
thought the hammer and
the hammer, of course. The hammer is irrelevant at this point.
Yeah,
I guess hammers can't smash rocks, I guess. I thought this match was fine, though. The Rock selling his ribs is very, very good throughout the match. NWO caused a DQ in 5 minutes. Hogan was interfering throughout the whole match. I like when the heels get their hands on the faces in situations where the faces can't get them back.
Right.
I always like that. That's a good way to build heat. Austin comes out to make the save. Him and Scott Hall have started a program going into WrestleMania. I believe they just smashed a cinder block on Austin's knee, which fell apart before it hit him. It looked really, really bad. I would highly recommend trying to find that clip. It's terrible. And then Vince comes out next, and my God, Vince McMahon just, Austin, you son of a bitch. Vince McMahon is trying so hard for the honor roll this week. He wants it. Vince makes the handicap match Raw, and Austin Rocks close the show by crushing beers. Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, the match was good. It was kind of what I was expecting. So is this question to the professor? Is this the first time that you see McMahon with the NWO together?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Vince has just been an afterthought here.
I don't know how I feel about that, because if Vince is bringing in the NWO to be the lethal dose of poison, and he just never associates himself with the NWO until making a match with Austin and Rock, I don't know. Not the greatest way to include yourself, I guess. But
yeah, Vince was kind of lost in this WrestleMania build. He didn't really do much on the show. Flair and Taker were doing their thing, so Flair was kind of out with the NWO stuff, and they just let Austin and Rock take care of him.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, I thought the match was good. I thought the brawl was great. And it leads to a very star-studded handicap match.
Yeah, dream match, man. Hogan's first WWE match in 8 years. Hall and Nash his first in 6. Big pop when Hogan tagged into this match. The crowd was definitely ready to see Hogan and Austin mix it up. It was cool to see that. You know what I mean? Just that small interaction that they had, but it was still cool. Scott Hall, by the way, throws a great clothesline. They just look so good. And then, very short match show with Hogan hitting the big boot in the leg drop to get a pin on the Rock. And then they laid Austin out with a stunner after the match. I thought it was good to make the NWO look strong here heading into WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think you needed to make the NWO look strong. I mean, besides hitting Rock with a semi-truck and everything. But I like that the Rock can't get to Hogan, but he keeps trying. When Hogan's on the outside and he keeps jumping down before Rock can hit him, I thought that was good storytelling. I was interested to see that we got so much Rock and Hogan action in this match. You would think that, especially for what they're building up to be, who is the greatest of all time, you would kind of keep these guys separate. And I thought we were going to get more of that. Rock is trying to get to Hogan, but Hogan's just completely avoiding him. But we get a lot of action between these guys. Of course, Rock doesn't get a lot of offense in on Hogan, but still, I thought that was weird. I thought this was a fun match. I thought it was really well booked. The ideal, perfect match that you would want going into Mania, WWF versus WCW. Dream match, like you said. In my notes for the finish, I just wrote, what the fuck? Because I would have never guessed that Hogan would pin Rock right before WrestleMania. I still don't know how I feel about that. I would have liked them to just keep them separate. I don't think you needed as much Hogan and Rock here. What did you think about all this, just between Hogan and Rock, seeing them together?
I liked it a lot. I liked the way that they did it.
Okay.
Because like you said, Rock never got the offense on Hogan. Hogan would only come in when the Rock was down and hurt. So even though we got Hogan and Rock, we never got it because it was just Hogan picking his shots at the Rock. I like that Hogan pinned the Rock because it gave the Rock a little bit of doubt maybe going into WrestleMania. The Rock has that big ego, right? And Hogan needed to get himself over again and remind people, like, hey, I'm Hulk Hogan. Big boot leg drop. And establish that again as, he just pinned the Rock with his finish. Like, I think Hogan needed it the most out of everybody there. Hall the Outsider's Edge is over. Hall was the workhorse of the NWO at this time. But Kevin Nash didn't have a match at the WrestleMania. Did you notice that?
I did. Is this an instance where he tore his quad, or?
No, he tore his quad about a month later. But
Okay.
this was an instance where people were not sure if Scott Hall was going to keep his shit together or not. So they didn't book Nash in a match to be the backup if Hall didn't make it to Mania for Austin.
Interesting.
And the reason why, because I put some thought last week into doing Hall and Austin from this WrestleMania as the build, but the build sucked for them. There's a botched cinder block. It was like Austin kidnapped Hall one time and like had him tied up in a chair on SmackDown and was just pushing him around the whole show, which really sucked. But I didn't like it because there was a lot of like Austin pouring beer on Scott Hall at the time.
Yeah,
And
even that Hall and Rock segment that Austin's throwing the beers at Hall, like.
Yeah, and Hall was on medication that, like, if he was around alcohol, would make him violently ill at the time. So it was a really tough thing for Hall, right? Because he's getting beer poured on him for a storyline, and like it's making him violently ill. Their match was pretty good at WrestleMania, though, I will say. But I wanted to go with a different route last week to honor Hall.
Yeah, very true, very true.
And then we're at the go home show, buddy. We're on SmackDown here. Hulk Hogan showing his age, handing a VCR tape in 2002 to a guy. Let's play this when I get out there, brother. DVDs were well alive in 2002, I will tell you. Monotone Hogan out there says that Piper, Warrior, and Andre all fell victim to the same thing that Rock did, the big boot and the leg drop, which I love. That was a great throwback.
Great line.
Hogan just keeps playing footage over and over again of him beating The Rock. The Rock's finally had enough, calls Hogan out after the third time. The Rock, I will tell you this, and I might catch some heat from this, or people might say you're absolutely right. The Rock might be the greatest person on the microphone of all time. Like bigger than Piper, bigger than Dusty, bigger than Flair. I've never seen a man just captivate and control an audience like The Rock does.
Well, that's the big thing of being on the mic. You have to grab your audience, and Rock is phenomenal at that. So it's hard to argue with that, honestly.
Yeah. Monotone Hogan just has one question for The Rock. Oh my God, he is alive. What you gonna do, brother? He got hyped up, ripped his shirt, like, let's go. Hollywood Hogan finally shows up on the Go Home show. I was hyped up for that. But I was also hyped up for The Rock walking down the ring, getting right in Hogan's face. Great stare down that they had. And Rock says that he's going to need his vitamins. Rock says he's going to eat his vitamins, but Hogan better say his prayers. And then he very calmly says, if you smell what The Rock is cooking. Great stare down. I thought this was a great segment. This was the best segment since the first half of the match being made, in my opinion.
Hogan, this Sunday at WrestleMania, The Rock is going to put an end to your legend and go down in history as being the best ever. But until then, The Rock will take his vitamins. But if I were you, I would say my prayers.
Yeah, this was awesome. This got me excited to head into WrestleMania for sure.
Just a few notes here. I like that Hogan gives the VCR to the crew guy, just because, you know, you see wrestlers be like, pull this up on the screen. I like the note of, you know, kind of handing the footage. That was a cool note there. Another thing, I'm starting to see how this podcast is becoming almost the homage and respect, and if you will, the Michael Cole Appreciation Society, because there's so much shit that Michael Cole gets of being just a horrible commentator. And there was a point where he wasn't that great. You know, his heel work is awful, but
yeah, that was bad.
In this story, he's fiery. You can tell that he's been watching a lot of JR, or at least learning from him, because you get a lot of those one-liners that JR was given around this time. I think he was great in this segment. What else here? I also want to say that, with everything that we've been getting, as far as, dull Hogan and, just very monotone, I think the reason why we get Hogan in this fiery state is because Rock finally gets into Hogan's head. And this Sunday, it's finally just about Hogan versus Rock and not the NWO versus Rock. If you want to take it into a story, I think maybe the NWO was kind of holding him back. I think maybe, he was kind of in this monotone state because he was so focused on building up his reputation as Hollywood Hogan, having the NWO behind him. But there was always that kind of inkling that Hogan, in his eye, really wanted to, showcase why he was that guy who headlined WrestleMania 9 times in a row. So I think maybe if you want to kind of twist it into that regard, maybe that's why Hogan was a little more monotone, because we finally get this segment where Hogan rips off the shirt. He gives the one, his famous lines and everything. And this is the perfect way to close out the feud, because Rock is ready. Hogan is ready. The NWO is out of the picture. This is exactly what needed to happen to get the fans ready for WrestleMania.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself, man. And before we turn it over to your recap of the match, what are you grading the build? What are you grading the build here?
All right. So, I really like this story. I think I didn't know that we were going to get this much kind of detail within. I think, everything with the NWO, I thought it was okay. I thought you could have done a lot of a better job in building up the NWO, especially with that first debut segment. I thought the struggle of Hogan wanting to prove himself as a legend is a phenomenal story, especially with him at his age, after all that he's been through, after all the WrestleManias, and coming in as someone that he wasn't presenting in the WWF. I think this is huge for him to kind of get back to those like glory days, if you will, and go up against someone who's arguably the top star in the WWF right now. So I think that is a phenomenal story, and I wish that they would have really driven home this is the angle. But then for all of that, you get those drawn out segments, what did we say? Like 4 segments in one, when they announce the match, you get monotone Hogan, you get a lot of this filler almost. So with that being said, I'm going to give this a B+. I was considering to give it like an A-, but I think the B+ is fair just because there's a lot of not great and a lot of stories that really aren't continued, like, the lethal dose of poison. We don't see a lot of Vince in this feud. You get a lot of kind of NWO just filler, but at the same time, you get a lot of really good detailed Hogan stories. So with that being said, I'm going to have to give this a B+ for the feud.
I'm going to go B-.
Ooh, okay.
Maybe a C+ in all honesty.
Ooh, wow.
I can't get over things that I can't suspend my disbelief, my reality to. Fair. I can't get over the Mack truck angle. Yeah. Monotone Hogan really took me out of this. Even though I loved everything he was saying, just the way he said it was a struggle for me to get through.
Absolutely.
I thought The Rock was amazing during all of this. I thought everything that he did was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Hall was really good throughout this as well. Nash was pretty good. Vince was incredible. The Kid Rock video package, there are no words for it. But I just, for all that good, that the first half of that Chicago promo, for all that stuff, if you took all that stuff, A+ all the way. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That was A+ stuff. But I just can't. The Mack truck, all that stuff. B-. I'll go B-. I won't be that hard on it. I'll go B-.
And now, Sour Skittles presents WrestleMania, the showcase of the Immortals.
That will take us to a night that I will never forget. March the 17th, St. Patrick's Day. Which I don't know if you ever tried to drive in downtown Toronto on St. Patrick's Day, but let me tell you, it is wild. March 17th, 2002, we are in my hometown of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, at the Sky Dome. We have Hollywood Hulk Hogan, the Icon versus The Rock, the Icon versus Icon. It's WrestleMania 18. Mr. Cerulli, the floor is yours.
All right. So we got to start it off. Obviously, the stare down, phenomenal. I think this really sets the tone of what you're going to see going forward. And, you know, what I will say is it's shorter than I thought it was. I thought they were going to go on for like a while stare down. But with that being said, I thought it was the perfect timing. I think the referee gets in the way at the perfect time. And then they start the match. I thought this was the perfect way. I keep saying perfect, but the just ideal way to start off this match. So I loved it. The crowd is going mental for Hogan. What I will say early on is that I know that I usually take the route of, going for the in-ring story, psychology, working the body parts, whatever it may be. You're not going to get anything of that in this because there is a much deeper story to be told, if you will. I think it depends on how you want to look at it. But I write in my notes here, wow, the crowd is going mental for Hogan. But something that catches my eye is that he's still wrestling as the heel early on with the big shoulder blocks, and then he's posing. But the crowd is so behind him that it like Jerry Lawler says, we're in Bizarro world. Hogan calls Rock a meatball, which I thought I was watching Rocky 3 for a minute. But no, we are watching WrestleMania 18. But yes, he calls him a meatball. Funny stuff. Any story that these guys had as far as what they were going to do in the match, they had to readjust because of this fan reaction. And they don't early on. And what, I write it in my notes at least early on, but throughout this match, you're not going to see a lot of readjustment here. You still have heel Hogan, face Rock. That's kind of what they're doing as far as how they're wrestling. And if you really go back and watch this match, you see all the heel tendencies from Hogan. You don't really see a lot of that from Rock. They, as much as people like to say they kind of played into that crowd reaction, I don't really see it. I still think you see, good guy Rock, bad guy Hogan in every sense of the word. Hogan is throwing a lot of Irish whips here. I'll talk about the match itself a little bit. Hogan's throwing a lot of Irish whips here. Really makes Rock do a lot of the running, if you will. I think Rock really carries this match as far as the athleticism. And I think pairing him up with Hogan, we talked about having a Hogan versus Austin. And I think Rock is the perfect opponent for Hogan simply for this reason. You said it. Austin obviously didn't think Hogan can go in the ring. And to his defense, he obviously is not the Hogan that we saw a few episodes ago with, Hogan versus Savage. But that's kind of why you pair him up with someone against like Rock. It was kind of like, how they kind of booked The Undertaker at WrestleMania in his later years. You want him to go up against someone younger like a CM Punk who will do majority of the bumps and the athletic moves and everything. So I think this was actually a really good reason to pair him up with The Rock here. The crowd, I write in my notes, it's a crazy atmosphere. I just can't wrap my head around it. I think Rock actually, I mentioned that we get more along the lines of still face Rock and heel Hogan, but I think Rock adjusts to being a heel far before Hogan adjusts to being a face. And I'll get to that a little later on. The crowd, I just keep writing I at least had to have written the crowd at least 10 times in these notes because God, like how could you not?
Insane, man. It was insane.
Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say being there, but I mean, just hearing it from, my laptop speakers, it was crazy. What else do we have here? Okay, so we get to the Hulk up, right? Because for the majority, it's a very standard match, right? You get a lot of what Hollywood Hogan was doing around this time. You get a lot of Rock towards the latter part of this match, heel Rock, you get him taunting the crowd a little bit, doing all these moves, but for the most part, you're staying very textbook. So we get to the Hulk up and phenomenal segment, right? The crowd's going nuts. It's awesome. It doesn't make sense. Come on. It's great to see Hulk Hogan hulking up and everything. But in the story of the match, right? From what they were presenting, which, you know, we saw, you know, the crowd reaction, it's great. But from what they were presenting, and I've been saying good guy Rock, bad guy Hogan, for Hogan to not build up a little bit and play into the face run and then do the Hulk up, instead to have all these heel tendencies and then do the Hulk up, like, it doesn't really make sense. It's great, don't get me wrong. Crowd pop, huge. But I don't know. I didn't get it. I still love the moment though. But like, I'm thinking about this as far as like, you know, the classroom and kind of narrowing in. I probably broke your heart just now in saying that.
No, because I've got a take on it. I'll let you finish. I've got a couple takes
all right.
on things you're saying.
Okay, I'll save that comment that I wrote for at the end, because that'll really be a controversial one.
You gonna dig it in?
I'm starting to dig it in here. I'm sorry, but all right. Finish similar to Hogan and Savage. It fell a little flat for me. I thought, you know, him kicking out of the leg drop was a huge thing. Like, I didn't really mind it. He goes for the leg drop again. He hits the people's elbow, and then he wins. I don't know. I think you could have done a little bit more of an elaborate ending here, but, you know, we still
people's elbow as a finish.
That was part of it too. Like, you know, the rock bottom is such a definitive ending, and then the people's elbow to put away someone like Hulk Hogan that he just Hulk up and he gave you 2 leg drops or 1 leg drop and missed the other one. I don't know. I didn't really love that. What else did I write here? Yeah, I wrote, although it doesn't really fit as far as a story, if I'm breaking, okay, that I'm reading my notes and I'm like seeing what else I write afterwards, but let me get to the post-match brawl first. Again, it doesn't make sense. Now, I don't know if you sent me all of, you know, the story. Maybe there were some things that I didn't see, but the post-match brawl, Hall and Nash, I've never seen Bash at the Beach. What was it, 96?
96, yeah.
From 96 to about 2001, 2000, these guys, NWO, biggest group in wrestling, however you want to look at it, transcended pop culture, all of that. They bring them into the WWE. They are a united force. Everything is great. And just because we get a handshake, Hall and Nash immediately turn on Hogan. Like, again, good. It's a great moment. We get the brawl, we get the posing, and it's cool. But there's not a lot of story here to really make it make sense. And I think this alone is very spectacle. And I think you said it before, like, this isn't really a very detailed match. It's more of the biggest spectacle in WrestleMania history, and I agree with that. But that's why I'm looking at it from 2 different outlooks. So here's what it comes down to. And should I give my rating? I think I'll, okay.
Yeah, give me a rating.
I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to give 2 ratings. Okay. Because I don't think that you can grade this match perfectly. So for the spectacle, all right, one of these grades is going to take into consideration the crowd, because you have to. This was basically, I don't think it was necessarily Hogan turning face as much as it was the crowd turning heel. I think that's kind of the outlook that I had on this.
Yeah.
Because still, face Rock, everything is right where it needed to be. So as far as including the crowd, I'm going to give this a B, because spectacle, all these moments, fantastic stuff. Really good. But then I'm going to give my other rating. And there was a comment in my notes that I wanted to hold off on. With a normal WrestleMania crowd that was textbook cheering for Rock, booing Hogan, this match is bad.
It's not great. I agree.
It is, or at least not as glorified as people make it out to be. I wrote in my notes, this was what I was reading before I kind of held myself off. Although it doesn't really fit as far as a story, if I'm breaking the match down itself, this wasn't a good match. So, as far as the in-ring work and not taking into consideration the crowd, just what we saw in the ring, even a little bit of what we saw afterwards, I'm giving this a C- for the in-ring action.
Okay.
I think the the moments were great. The act, like Rock carries the match really well here. Of course, we knew Rock was going to pull out all the stops. Even Hogan does really good heel tendencies, heel work. A lot of the moves were great. The ending just does not make sense. And I get that they try to adjust. I think they adjusted to the crowd a little bit too late. Hulking up doesn't work unless there's more of a reason for it to work. Rock needed to flip the switch much earlier, call an audible, do something so that Rock is the heel and Hogan is kind of taking the bulk of the face work. And they just didn't. Hogan was in control majority of this match. Rock puts in a sharpshooter, and then we get
big
which
heat for
did
that.
get big heat, I will say. But then we get the Hulk up, and it just doesn't really make sense. I'm going to get so much shit for this comment. I'm sorry. I know that this is one of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history, and I get that for you old fucks. But looking at this, I'm sorry. Let me get the sunglasses. But look, I mean, really, I think this match is just glorified because of those moments. This is what the Classroom is all about. Go back and watch the match.
Okay.
Don't take into account the crowd. The crowd, you're going to get one of the biggest spectacles, sure. Watch the match. Tell me that this is a great match.
You young whippersnapper. The professor's going to have to put you in line here and tell you why you're wrong.
All right. This is what is this? The second time that we've had a big disagreement?
Well, now I get some of your points here, and I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to argue with you that this match, from a technical in-ring standpoint, is a masterpiece.
Right.
Is it a bad match? No. Is it a great match? No. But this match isn't about the match. The crowd is what makes this match, right?
That's true.
So I get your breaking up grades here. To me, this match is an A. The combination, and I'll take my bias of being there out of the equation for a minute here. Watching this as a whole, because I'm not going to break it up as an in-ring and as a crowd thing. I'm just watching this for what it was, and this was mental. The crowd took this to another level, and that's what good crowds do. They make good things great, and they make mediocre things good. You know what I mean? And they can make bad things worse. Like, crowds can be shitty too. Hogan. So let me give you a little bit of a history lesson on Hulk Hogan here.
Okay.
Hulk Hogan, even when he was the top babyface in the company, always worked like a heel. Eye raking, back scratching, whining. Hogan always had heel tendencies to him. It drove Jesse Ventura crazy. It drove Bobby Heenan crazy. And, Gorilla Monsoon would always just say, well, it's just tit for tat. But Hogan, one of his main moves was the eye gouge. So, Hogan always did kind of work like a heel, right? The Rock, you got to look at it as a bigger picture too. Did they flip the switch a little bit? Yes, but they're not working for just Toronto. They're working for the world.
Exactly.
Right? So The Rock didn't necessarily work like a heel, but his mannerisms were like a heel. And I thought he made that switch pretty early. I love the beginning of this match. I think that from the stare down, I like Hogan showing his strength over The Rock and hitting the poses, which got the crowd into a frenzy. When The Rock finally got in control, I thought getting in Hogan's face and doing the just bring it, I thought that was very heely of The Rock. The way he would look at the crowd. It was the little things that The Rock did that made it into a heel. As far as the hulking up goes, I'll just say from a personal standpoint, I've never experienced a cooler moment in my entire life than being in that moment. And I'll get into that in a little bit more detail when I give my little rundown of being there live. But it did make sense because that's what Hulk Hogan does. He gets hit with a finish and kicks out of it and hulks up. And by this point, Hogan was being more of a face. But it's WrestleMania. Hogan's back in the WWF. This motherfucker was going to hulk up even if he was the biggest heel in the company. It's WrestleMania. You know what I mean? And now for a little bit more of a throwback, which was why I really like the finish a lot. Hulk up, big boot, leg drop. Jim Ross screaming out, "He beat Andre the Giant with this move," I thought was the greatest call, next to fucking, "Good God, they killed him." It's one of my favorite Jim Ross calls of all time. But The Rock kicks out. When Hogan's shocked, like, what do I do? So he's like, fuck it. I go back to what brought me to the dance. Punch, punch, big boot. Now, we haven't covered this match in the classroom yet, but also in the same building, Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior happened. The finish of that match was Hulk Hogan missing a leg drop and the Warrior hitting a splash. Okay. We had a throwback to WrestleMania 6 in the same building there. Hogan misses the leg drop. Rock hits the rock bottom. Does he hit two of them? I can't remember.
I think he hits one.
He hits one, hits the people's elbow. That's the Rock's big two moves. Hogan's down. Rock survived the Hulk up. So I like the finish. I thought the middle part of the match, but the beginning 5 minutes and the ending 5 minutes, I thought were some of the best stuff that you could do.
Yeah, totally. I think it works, just taking into consideration everything. Like you said, it's a huge spectacle. Like, this is something that even the WWF clearly didn't even expect to happen. Seeing Hogan clearly as the big face here, and the crowd just going crazy over it. Taking all of that, I can definitely see giving it an A. I can definitely see giving it really any grade. I think it comes down to how you break it up. And I think that's really what this show is all about, is like looking in and seeing like the different outlooks on this. Because if people do go back and like watch the match and kind of look at it from these different angles, how great is it? How bad is it? You know what I mean? So I think that you broke it down.
If you watch this match on mute, it's a C. Yeah. If you watch this match with volume, it's an A, right?
Sure.
Because all the little things that The Rock does, those dirty looks, and he remembered that because he threw back to a promo, and so one of my favorite Rock promos a couple years later. But you were the first people to boo me, you bunch of mother Canuckers. Like, he had some good lines on us. Before we move on to the next part here, a little bit of, I don't know if I'll call them Hulk Hogan isms. I don't know how true these are, but Hulk Hogan supposedly went into this match with broken ribs.
Ooh.
He hurt them in a house show match with Rikishi in Los Angeles, leading up to, getting back into ring shape. Also, a lot of big rumors that because Hulk Hogan was getting such positive reactions leading into Mania, and at Access, the response that he got was so crazy that apparently they sent Hogan on a plane to go home and get yellow tights, and there was talk of having him come out in the yellow, which I don't know if I believe that one so much. That could just be Hogan being Hogan, but there was definitely thinking and rumbling of, do we put Hogan in the yellow for this?
I don't believe that, and I'll tell you why. Because at the end, when Hogan is doing the posing and everything, if Vince sees, at Access and everything, that Hogan is so over, why not play Real American?
Well, 100%, right?
So,
but I do think that they called an audible and bringing Hall and Nash out. I think that I don't know if that was planned. You know what I mean? Like, I think they maybe planned it that weekend, seeing the response, like maybe the week leading up to it. We're going to break Hogan off, because guess what? 1 month later, Hulk Hogan won the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, yes, I do know that.
They definitely wrote it out, man. They definitely wrote it out. And
I think it was the right call. Although I say that there wasn't a lot of build to it, I think it was the call to break up Hogan. You could have done it a little bit differently, but I think it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, he was back in yellow 2 weeks later, I think. The next night on Raw, I sent you the clip of that, of probably the coolest 5 minutes standing ovation. Hogan really milked it up. Montreal really showed Hogan love. It was pretty crazy, pretty special moment. There was more to that segment. The Rock came out, they became friends.
I did watch all of that.
You watched all of it.
Graphics, yeah.
Hall and Nash came out. They set up a tag match, and then we're off to the races. Hogan was coming out to Voodoo Child by the end of the night.
Wow,
and that's it. That's Hogan and Rock. If you guys want, I can share a little bit of my own personal experiences going to WrestleMania.
Let's do it.
I went to Fan Access. I refused to take my picture in front of the ambulance, but my friend Wilson, shout out to Wilson, that is the ambulance. I did take this picture, which is pretty cool.
Why did you refuse to take a picture?
Because I was furious about it. I'm still furious about it. I'm not wasting my, because this wasn't cell phone days either, right? I had a fucking disposable camera here, right?
That is such a heel move.
I met the fabulous Moolah and Mae Young. I have a picture with them, which I didn't send you. Fan access was pretty cool. Who else did I meet? I saw Lance Storm and Just Incredible have a dark match together at Access. Yeah, just fun stuff with Access. I don't remember what else I sent you there, so maybe you want to throw some stuff up. I sat 9th row, Hart facing the hard camera. That's my event chair that I have from the event there, which I still proudly display in my basement. That was taken from my seat. So I was sitting, if you go back and watch the match, I don't know if you remember, but there was like a giant poster of Hulk Hogan's face over one of the turnbuckles. I was right underneath that. So I was like right on the floor, 9th row. DDP. Oh, there's here's a
great shot.
Yeah, that's the handshake after the match, which I have framed in my basement with my ticket stub. Which
here's the ticket stub.
There's the ticket stub. $610 I paid in high school for a ninth row on the floor there, which is crazy. The Skydome sucks, by the way, for watching wrestling. It's terrible. That's actually, I sent you that as a joke. That's from WCW Mayhem.
Oh,
I just saw. We always talk about Mean Gene on the show. So
damn it, Sherry!
Thought you got a pop out of that. That's Triple H. I ran right to the front row. That was the last picture that I had in my disposable film.
It's a great picture.
Yeah,
you got some really good shots here. Even this one with
Jericho. That one was tough to get. A lot of people were pushing around there. Jericho and Stephanie underneath him there.
Well, here's my favorite shot and my favorite story behind it, what you told me.
Yeah, so DDP fought Christian, and DDP used to always run out to the crowd after he celebrated, and here he comes, like right to where I am, and I'm like running over. I'm like, yeah, DDP's coming. And all of a sudden, I just get launched over a row of chairs by DDP and the security team. I went flying. I got up and ran over, got my picture. You can see me, like you would never know it's me, but if I pointed to you, I was like, that's me. You can see me jumping up and down beside him.
That's awesome.
That was a fun one. And then just like I can't really put into words what it was like, the crowd to be there, but like I get goosebumps thinking about it. I've been to everything, you know. I've seen the Rolling Stones, AC/DC, you name any big musical act, I've seen them. The Foo Fighters, R.I.P. Taylor Hawkins. Very sad stuff there.
Yeah.
I've been to UFCs, I've been to, you name it, hockey, football, baseball. I've done it all. I've never experienced anything like Hogan and Rock. And it's crazy because it's wrestling. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Stuff. When Hulk Hogan hulked up, I was a 5-year-old kid again. I was jumping up and down, grabbing people around me, pushing them. Like it was the coolest thing I've ever been a part of. That Hulk up moment when he hulked up is my favorite moment as a professional wrestling fan.
It was awesome. That was great to see.
Yeah, it was so good. I really, very fond memory. I thought the whole WrestleMania sucked though. It was not my favorite WrestleMania. It was a very boring WrestleMania. But this moment made it for me. It was amazing, and I'm glad we went back on memory lane here on the Classroom.
Totally, absolutely.
There's not just one honor roll inductee this week. There are 68,237 of us. I'm giving myself the fucking honor roll this week.
You mark.
I'm marking out for myself. The fans of Toronto for this match took this match and made it into an iconic moment in WWF history. And for that, myself and the other 68,000, we are the honor roll this week.
What a great choice. Honestly, that is probably the perfect choice there.
I thought so. Do we get a prize? Do I get a prize for being the honor roll? Like, what do we mail out here every week for that?
Your prize is that you get to tell me what we're doing next week.
All right, next week we're gonna do something a little bit different because you are going to WrestleMania next week. So we are going to do a watch along.
Yeah.
Because we just don't have time to film another whole episode and watch everything. Life is
Very
busy.
true.
I've been sick all week, and
you know what? We usually announce the match. This week, I think we should leave the fans in suspense, as similar to what the WWE is doing right now with, some surprise signings and, who's going to be there, what's going to happen. Maybe we pull our own. We're going to release this on WrestleMania Sunday. Let's leave it in suspense what match we're going to be doing next week.
how about we leave the match in suspense, and I'll do a little teaser. If you don't watch our show next week, then you can rest in peace.
Good teaser.
And on that note, on behalf of the Prodigy, I'm the Professor, and class has been dismissed.
Brother.